Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be watching this from. What we are here to talk about today is the MVIS Full Monty. What is MVIS essentially? Features, overview, value, use cases, and the roadmap. I am Zane Master. I'm the Senior Product Manager within Rocket Software's MV Tools and Cloud side of the house, and I am located in Denver. Here's a slide that will reference additional resources that you can then review at a later time to, for future sessions, and also to get an understanding of where to get MVIS from in case you're interested in trying out the software yourself. Agenda of today's items will be around the history background, how MVIS came to be, what is the future of MVIS server, and then feature functionality. We'll also dive into a little bit around how the existing platforms U2 REST and WebDE work together, review some of the additional resources, and then also talk about upcoming technical sessions, which I would love for you guys to attend to get more of a hands-on experience. So let's talk about this slide first. This is the multi-value strategy. This has been referenced during a number of our webinars all last year, and it's still at the core of what drives our roadmaps. Our strategy and focus over the next couple of years is going to be around the following areas: multi-value core, modernization, cultivating innovation, cloud as well. And so specifically, how does this product, the Multi-Value Integration Server, or MVIS, align with this? Well, in multiple different ways. So it hits definitely points around disaster recovery and high availability for the server side of the house on the multi-value core. It also gives you insight into performance, monitoring, security. From the modernization side of the house, it does check off those checkboxes for participating with OpenJDK instead of having reliance on Java, helping you and helping us as well deliver this product into an agile fashion, and then helping you participate in the API economy. From the cultivating innovation side of the house, this is available as a MV Develop Edition. We'll get to that in a future slide, and was also directed and influenced by our next generation of developers that participate in the MV Gen Next program. On the cloud side of the house, it hits all of those points because it does provide you deployment flexibility, it helps with our experiences aspect, and this was a product that was built with cloud in mind to begin with. So how did this product come out to be? Well, we collaborated very closely with one of our customers that actually was not sure where MV was in their future, as they didn't see it moving towards helping them modernize the application or the architecture. Surprisingly, when we discussed our modernization plans with them, their goals were in absolute sync with ours and matched perfectly with what we were doing with the MV integration server. This is how Storis has incorporated MVIS into the architecture to help them support with their modernization initiative, which is around creating more mobile-based applications and then also moving into Azure, particularly into the cloud as well. There's a lot going on in this picture here, I know. The main takeaway has to do with what's in the middle layer here. It basically focuses around the multi-value integration server cluster. That's doing the heavy lifting, load balancing, and the pooling and the managing of those RESTful services that are across the board on different U2 servers, either located in the cloud or on-premise, basically being able to support this hybrid architecture. The MV integration server will actually scale horizontally for multiple accounts on multiple servers and support as many instances as you need on the back end. The customer built a Node application as well with React and connected to the MV integration server to access all of those wonderful RESTful services on those U2 servers. This image is what I lovingly refer to as the 32 flavors of MV. Every time we were asked, what is the best way to access the core business logic of data? Our answer was that it depends on your application, and a solution was offered. Green screen conversion? Well, extract and synchronize all screens of an application to create a modern user interface. If you wanted APIs, we offered flavors such as the UOJ, UOJava, UO.NET, our JDBC, ODBC driver. Basically, use the API or driver flavor that works best for your application to communicate with the MV application server. We also offered RESTful services that allowed customers to create application workflows without changing the existing code that's supporting their other critical applications. Now what we're doing is adapting our approach to be API first to enable our customers to participate in the API economy and adoption of microservices style of architecture within modern applications. So how do we take that and help you manage all of these services for you? What we've done is taken that API focus a step further with the MV integration server. As you can see, the MV integration server is a piece of middleware that sits between the application and the data server and provides you the ability to easily create or translate your existing data or subroutines into RESTful services via a web interface. This empowers you to build applications using modern frameworks and languages. Additionally, RESTful services that are created come along with Swagger definitions as well for internal, external consumption and testing. There is also a centralized logging and monitoring for customers who expect 24/7, 365 service without any downtime. Here, we provide API monitoring that allows you to fully participate in the API economy. Logging and monitoring is available via an admin API or the web UI. And with our most recent integration with FluentD, you can also use many third-party tools such as Prometheus, Datadog, Splunk, Amazon CloudWatch for additional enhanced monitoring. Application load balancing is also available through worker process resource pooling to handle traffic spikes. Deployment is much more flexible and easily done on-premise or in containers. There's a flexible API for deployment and management. MVIS also helps you to orchestrate multiple APIs. Continued connectivity is offered by offering failover support and the ability to scale elastically. And this product was built to be cloud-friendly. A lot here, and we're going to review these in upcoming slides and future hands-on technical sessions. But before we jump in any deeper, I want you to keep this image in the back of your mind, because it is the same way you should think about MVIS. Just like a Swiss Army knife, MVIS too can help you address many issues. It's the MV Swiss Army knife. MVIS can be thought about, as we said, the middle tier, the MV gateway that helps you extend your business reach and technology options, helping you modernize your applications, monitoring activity across the board, especially to match current expectations of 24/7, 365 availability of all applications. It offers flexible deployment options so you can take advantage of the cloud, containers, and the cost savings that come with it. So let's see how MVIS helps you achieve all of this and some of its features as well. MVIS is an API server. MVIS is also a web API server. MVIS is also a UO API server because it supports all of our UO APIs. So looking at it from a features perspective, let's find out a little bit more. From a deployment, when it comes to deployment options, MVIS is very, very flexible, to the point that it's almost like a yogi. Yes, lame dad joke. Let's see these actually represented in pictures to give you a better idea instead of reading all of this crazy text here. MVIS can be run right on top of the data server. MVIS can also run off the data server and support multiple data servers on the back end. MVIS also supports the independent software vendor model in a hybrid layout, where some customers may be in the cloud and some are actually on-premise. MVIS will allow you to connect your application to both of those resources in the back end. And there's also a bunch of redundancy and scaling built into MVIS, where you can cluster it in the middle tier, and it can support in case one of those MVIS application clusters or servers goes down, to still maintain that connectivity across the board. MVIS also can assist with CQRS operations, which CQR stands for Command Query Responsibility Segregation. Send queries basically to one data source and send your updates to another data server, a bunch of replicated read-only nodes, queries sent there, commands sent to the right node. What this is actually good for is for scalability and performance at the data server tier. When we started building out MVIS, we kept the low-code, no-code development paradigm in mind. As you can see here, through the MVIS admin or web UI interface, it is quite easy to create RESTful services. You just basically, once you're connected to account, you find the data resource you want to expose as a service, select the specific field names that are of interest to you to expose within that RESTful service, click OK, and there you're done. You actually now have exposed that data resource as a service. The thing is, once you've created that data resource or subroutine through MVIS, you also get along the Swagger definition of that particular service. Right within the web UI, you can actually click it and then start to exercise any of these verbs using the UI itself. There's also a whole bunch of feature-rich pooling included in MVIS. You don't have to, when you restart or you reconfigure individual pools, you can do them on the fly via the web UI or the admin REST APIs without having to restart the entire MultiValue integration server. Pool restarts also allow in-flight requests to complete within a configurable threshold. Pool restarts apply to all MVISs if you're running them in a cluster. And we've also made sure that there is a very fast pool startup time. So basically, requests are serviced while pools are still coming up in the background. MVIS has connection resiliency built right into it, such as a keep alive. When a connection between an MVIS and a server fails, MVIS will automatically connect and heal that connection. Actually, when we first implemented keep alive, it was only to try to keep a connection alive. It was not used for healing purposes. We then later realized it had better healing capabilities than the existing UOJ healing logic. So we chunked the old UOJ healing connection logic out and used keep alive instead. We also have a health check API. Now, this is a special endpoint that MVIS hosts that orchestrators can ping. If the endpoint ever returns something than an OK, then the orchestrator considers the MVIS bad and replaces it. MVIS is also very DevOps friendly. For example, you can check artifacts into Git and use webhooks to deploy into test or staging environments and automatically kick off those tests. It also supports graceful shutdown, which becomes quite useful for those blue-green deployments. Now, if you're wondering what blue-green deployments are, I'm going to do my best to explain it in less than 10 seconds. In a blue-green deployment, Kubernetes or your orchestrator will basically bring up a green set, send all new traffic to the green set with your new application, tell the blue set, which is your old application, to shut down, and the blue application will start to shut down, but MVIS, if it's sitting on top of it, will see the shutdown signal but will refuse to actually shut down until they finish all the current requests from going through. After that, so it's subject to a hard timeout, of course, and all of the traffic will then be transferred over to your newest application supporting your latest and greatest offering to your customers. Now, this becomes very useful when especially you're in this time of where you don't want to advertise any maintenance windows, or you cannot advertise maintenance window or take down your server. This becomes useful and actually a competitive advantage to offer your customers key new feature functionality on the fly without having to break them down from that maintenance window time frame. This was also built, this being MVIS, was also built with the cloud in mind, so containers were a very natural fit for that environment. And MVIS in fact ships as a container image as well, and works with a number of orchestration services, and it basically just depends on where you plan to run it. We have certified with Kubernetes, but if you want to use any of the native resources or orchestrators from Amazon, Azure, or Google, we will work with those as well. We made sure that MVIS was certified across these two supported platforms of cloud providers and their services as well. So from storing common configurations that are useful when managing a cluster of MVISs to monitoring its performance, statistics, and logs. They can all be consumed in AWS CloudWatch or Azure Application Insights. Here, basically, I'm showing you an example of me exercising the specific, RESTful service that we just created, using the UI, the Swagger UI there to send a number of commands across the board, and then switching over to the Azure platform, the Azure console, and then basically being able to identify and display some of the metrics there so we can see what they come across as. select the event that you want to show, select any of the time period, and then it's very easy to see them. We've also built an aggregated real-time monitoring system into the MVIS web UI. And for those of you seeking additional insight, we have 3 data streams. The 3 data streams are, we can see data at a per API request, we can see them all the performance statistics of the MVIS, and we can also see the aggregate API requests. We've also gone ahead and integrated with FluentD, and you can base your configuration on whatever your third-party monitoring logging system is and send the data over to that existing system. So what is FluentD? Well, we wanted to offer additional flexibility in case you didn't want to use the native cloud-provided monitoring and logging systems. FluentD is an open source data collector. Once installed on the server, it runs in the background to collect, parse, transform, analyze, and store various types of data. Based on what type of system you want FluentD to integrate with, Nagios, Splunk, Datadog, FluentD can take our data elements and format them into the appropriate template format for the third-party system to consume. We don't ship FluentD, just wanted to let you guys know that. You as a consumer would have to download and install FluentD, and then you'd have to configure MVIS to send FluentD log data. Then FluentD will output it into whatever format you need it to. FluentD also has plugins for notification systems, middleware monitoring systems, data warehousing, a whole bunch of other things as well. So it's a much bigger, better solution than just your monitoring or logging collection solution. Lastly, MVIS is very administrative friendly. If you aren't a UI guy, MVIS has its own set of REST services that allow you to manage and control it. As you've seen here, there's also extensive logging and performance monitoring capabilities built in, so you can now monitor how consumers are using your application, or your own applications are being consumed by MVIS or APIs. So let's talk about how MVIS works with our existing platforms that we've provided, particularly U2 REST and WebDE. Starting with U2 REST here, if you want to take your existing RESTful services that are being created through the RESTful U2 REST server, it's a simple export and import function so that those RESTful services can then leverage all of the benefits of MVIS. Imported files or imported RESTful services are then moved into the integration server with their security intact. And the added benefit, those RESTful services, once imported, also gain the Swagger definitions that you didn't have before, making it much easier for external or internal developers to consume those services and move ahead. So that for U2 REST, it's a migration path. For WebDE, it's an upgrade path. And the MultiValue integration server is basically enhanced from the WebDE Java scheduler to address application modernization. And just want to let you guys know that all new feature development is going to occur on MVIS. You can run your RBOs through MVIS to leverage all of the MVIS's benefits and capabilities. Basically, what you're doing is replacing the Java scheduler with MVIS, and then the RBOs pointing to the right port will be using MVIS to then communicate with your clients. We are working on incorporating some of the current web designer functionality to the MVIS UI. But in the interim, you will need to run MVIS in conjunction with WebDE if you plan to CRUD your existing RBOs. If you don't want to manage, update, delete your RBOs, and you just want to have them run through MVIS and plan to build new RESTful services using the MVIS UI or admin APIs, then you don't need to run the WebDE in parallel with MVIS. The only reason you need to run it is if you plan to CRUD your existing RBOs. And we plan to cover this, a complete how-to, in an upcoming technical session. So let's look at the roadmap and see what features and capabilities are in the pipeline. MVIS 1.2.1 was released last year, and it included Swagger Open API, it included Web Admin Portal UI, it also included an upgrade and a migration path for U2 REST server and WebDE. It also included shared RESTful services. So in case you wanted to use RESTful services across multiple servers, you could use those shared definitions. We also certified it with AWS Azure, Kubernetes from an orchestrator perspective. It does work on UV. It does work on UDT as well. So Universe and Unidata servers are supported. And we integrated Fluentd for additional enhanced performance monitoring integrations with your third-party monitoring solutions. Now, looking into 2020 this year, there have been extenuating circumstances, so that pushed off the MVIS a little bit out into the second half of this year. And some of the things that we plan to bring out and we've already worked on are extending the HTTP methods, such as including patch into it, into the verbs that we offer through MVIS, a level of QA automation so we can start to focus on building and coming out with better, faster releases in a more agile fashion, inclusion of the vanity URLs that allow you to define your URI or URL however you want it to look like for third-party consumption or internal understanding. We also plan to increase the security aspects of MVIS through the integration of OAuth and support our MV application server, the D3 side of the house, with MVIS 1.3.0, which again is planned for the later half of this year. Looking into next year, 2021, that's where we start to think about bringing in the WebDE RBO UI, so you can completely CRUD your existing RBOs if you want to use an upgrade and migrate over now to MVIS only. We'll also offer full US support, upgrade OpenAPI to match OpenAPI 3.0 spec, include additional APIs that need to be supported, such as GraphQL, gRPC, and then from a security standpoint, enhance it with also including SAML. Again, just want to point out that this is subject to change given the current global challenges. This is the latest roadmap as of this moment. Any changes to this roadmap will be communicated in upcoming technical sessions. So now that I have your attention, let me tell you about some of the available resources that you can take advantage of prior to our upcoming sessions, especially if you're interested in downloading and playing with the product. A number of these links were included up in the previous slide deck right at the start, so you can always rewind this and go back and see where you can get all of these resources from. MVIS collateral, well, we have our data sheet out there. We also have a little bit nice video, marketing material, and the link to our actual MVIS trial software site where you can download an actual working copy of MVIS that is only limited in terms of when it expires, which is September of this year. And this all can be found by going into the Rocket website and then linking and following the trail from there. In regards to additional to the trial site, we've made a concentrated effort last year to make the platform available as a full stack offering on the AWS marketplace. And what we did is we paired our MV application server along with MVIS and then made that an AMI image and uploaded it to the AWS marketplace, the Rocket AWS market, the AWS marketplace in AWS, and you can go to it and search for it and download what is known as the Rocket MultiValue Application Platform Developer Edition, and that allows you to then gain this. It also comes along with a whole bunch of examples and samples. Once you instantiate this AMI in your EC2 environment, you can actually start to play with it immediately. Now, those examples and samples are very simple to begin with, because our idea here was to focus on the new developer that might not have that much familiarity with MVIS or MV as a whole, so we made them quite simple to start with and begin with. We also have a number of blog posts and examples and samples out there that you can play with. Again, talking about the examples and samples, those on GitHub. Those links are up in the first 2 slides or so that you can reference and get to it. And how do those examples and samples come to be? Well, there's a blog post talking about that as well. What we had when we hired our intern last year was he had a technical background. We asked him if he knew anything about MultiValue. He said no, and we said, great, this is a perfect challenge. You can take the MVIS application and then take the application server, pair them up, and build a mobile application on it, and tell us and write about it, and tell us any of the challenges, or tell us how easy it was. Hopefully it's the latter, not the former. And he did, and he came out with a really good, well-written blog post where he used, not knowing anything about the MultiValue application server on the back end, He used the XDemo account and built an application on top of it, just purely interfacing with MVIS. So he's written all about it. We have the examples and samples of the mobile and web applications he's built, and that's out there for you. There are also a bunch of other blog posts, particularly on how we created and used MVIS within our own systems as well. A system that you all might be familiar with is RBC. We upgraded that to use MVIS as well, and what are some of the challenges we went through, what we found benefits of it, and how useful it has been for that particular team. There's also one written by a customer as well. That's enough of me talking and telling you how great it is. Well, let's see what customers are saying about it. So Storis, for example, who we collaborated with, found this to say about the product, where it provides them increased reliability and uptime to the end users. Ultradeus, a banking application in Australia, found it really easy to publish new subroutines as endpoints. Sanderson, a UK company, they found it really easy to share third-party data with third-party applications, which was a problem prior, but is no longer an issue. And Alchemtech, a company in South America, found this to be a solution that helped them be more competitive in their environment. So let's talk about some of the upcoming hands-on sessions that I hope you could participate in to learn a little bit more about not only the new technology that is paired with MVIS, but also how you can leverage MVIS to then leverage this new technology within your architecture as well. So on April 28th, that's when we have our next session, how MVIS can easily extend your existing MV applications. There you'll get to learn a little bit more about REST tenants, Swagger, and how to extend data resources as services. And then we'll jump into a little bit more around the MV Developer Edition that I reviewed, its examples and samples, and you'll also get a preview of what's coming up in a future release, the Vanity URL. On May 5th, where we'll show you how to migrate your U2 REST server definitions in your application to work with MVIS. There we'll show you the difference between the two product offerings and why MVIS is much more in its benefits and features capabilities. And then what do you need to know when transitioning to MVIS? A couple of gotchas here and there that you might not be aware of. We've done the hard work for you, and we want to show you some of these before you start to do it yourself. And then we'll jump into the demo and show you how to import those existing U2 REST services into MVIS. The same format where we'll show you on May 12th, upgrading your WebDE now application to use MVIS. Very similar format. We'll compare MVIS and WebDE. What do you need to know when upgrading to MVIS? How to use the tool to convert the CMI file that was in WebDE to work with MVIS, and then show you around how to get your RBOs to work with MVIS. Then after that, we'll also show you upcoming future features and discuss a little bit about them on around the WebDE UI side of the feature, so that you can actually CRUD your RBOs directly through the MVIS's UI, and then you don't have to rely on running both systems in parallel, but you can actually completely migrate off when MVIS 1.4 is available. These upcoming future sessions are still to be scheduled, but here we want to take again that education approach first and then talk about how MVIS connects with it. Starting off particularly with the MV application flexibility with containerization and MVIS. There we'll take the first 20 minutes or so, or 15 minutes, to help you understand containerization, the technology, Dockers, and then we'll jump into demos on how you can use MVIS to leverage that technology. Followed then is a session on cloud, specifically around the two cloud providers. We've split this into two parts. The first part is going to be around AWS, where again the first couple of minutes or 20 minutes will be taken up by helping you understand some of the services that AWS Cloud offers, what is the cloud, things like that. Then we'll show you specifically how to configure MVIS to run in a cluster within the cloud in AWS, and then also use the CloudWatch monitoring and statistics to grab all of that information and then display it within the natively monitoring system within AWS. In a very similar format with part 2 being Azure, first 20 minutes or so will be taken around helping you learn a little bit about, very briefly, about Azure Cloud, and then going ahead and showing you how to run MVIS in a cluster there, and in very similar fashion showing you how to use the native monitoring and logging system in Azure, which happens to be Application Insights. The last one we have planned for thus far is Deep Insights, where we show you specifically around the three APIs that are available to MVIS, and then show you how to set up and configure Fluentd to then work specifically with Prometheus and Grafana, and that should help you get set up for any of the other solutions or third-party monitoring systems that you have. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over for questions that you may have. Please feel free to email Kathy or me if you have any questions, and we will do our best to answer them. All right, thank you.